Hello, my precious students, and welcome to another deck review that nobody asked for. This deck challenge was supposed to be our Halloween special designed by Mimikyu. We were trying to go off spooky style archetypes, and the one I got stuck with was Ghostrick. For those of you that are new to this channel, every Friday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, Mimikyu, myself, and two others undergo a deck challenge on stream where random archetypes based on a theme that Mimikyu organizes. We don't know what the decks are in advance, and if it turns out that we used the archetype before, a new one is given to us. If you want to join us, though, a link in the description will be provided to the Twitch channel. And before I go on to the deck list, like I always normally do before I actually give an initial review, I'd like to apologize for not uploading for the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I was spending time with my fiance for her birthday, and last weekend, she also ended up in the hospital due to an infection in her face. She's doing much better, and the infection is nearly gone, so I'm grateful she's doing well again and that she's safely home. I also hope that you guys can understand my absence. Now that we got through that, without further ado, let's go under the deck profile, which is right here. Starting off, we have a playset of Ghostrick Stein, and then Ghostrick Mummy playset of. These two cards I mainly had because they're level 3s and they can go in your rank 3 plays. Of the more relevant Ghostrick monsters. Also, Stein is pretty much a searcher, so that was pretty much important to have. And then this one just adds another normal summon, so I figured that was a 3 of. I feel like maybe I might be a little bit mistaken on that one, but it turned out to be true. I was mistaken. Two, the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots, because I wanted some disruptive plays that are searchable, and I figured this was one way to get that done. And then we have Double Ghostrick Doll. This card is your Swarm condition and should have been a 3 of. That was my fluke, my major mistake, and I would rectify it in a future video, but since stream was over before I rectified it, this is the build that I ended with. Next we have a playset of Ghostrick Jack Frost. Really decent card. Definitely 3 of. 2 Ghostrick Lanterns. This one's, I feel, is a bit a situational card because Ghostricks would have to be face up for it to be known, or already been face down to begin with for it to take an effect. So I just have it at 2 of because it is a free monster anyways, and it negates attacks. So and then a playset of Ghostrick Mary. This one was kind of nice because even if you're attacked directly or even take effect damage, this card is just coming up on the field to be used as linked materials later on. And since the entire deck is dark, I figured a playset of Allure of Darkness over, say, Pot of Desires. So I thought that was really nice. One for one. I figured since there's a lot of level 1s, this card could have been useful, and it turned out yes and no. This card came up maybe once or twice where it kind of helped me get into a quick rank 1 XC summon or into Link Rainbow, and that was just about it. One terraforming, because there's so many field spells in this deck. It's very important to have your field spells. And then a playset of Ghostrick Museum. This one, I believe, is, yes, the better of the ones because it halves any damage that you would take, I believe. No, it doesn't. Okay. But it does prevent you from preventing your monsters from being destroyed from battle. Um, and then one Mystic Mine. I know there's a lot of hate on this card, but with how slow the deck is, I would actually opt against all the other Ghostrick field spells and just run 3 of this. Um, but I've also screwed myself with it, so it is definitely a double-edged sword. And then, um, 2, Ghostrick Mansion. This one's the one that actually does half the damage, which I believe should have been. No, this one's fine. Yeah, this one was definitely a 2 of. And then another situational card going into the traps. A playset of Quaking Mirror Force. Because, Ghostrix likes to set cards face down and then attack your opponent directly. Which proves up with a playset of Ghostrix Scare. And to follow up with the Phantom Knights engine, 2 Phantom Knights Fogblade for a little bit more disruption and negation. Also, it prevents your opponent from attacking, so that's always nice. And then the happy-go-lucky continuous trap of the deck that I feel definitely was justified at 3, Ghostrick Go-Around. Go into the extra deck, 2 Ghostrick Angel of Mischief, 1 the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, triple Ghostrick Alucard, the better of the rank 3, the Xyz monsters you can go to and except for Angel of Mischief. Angel of Mischief isn't too terribly useful for one effect, but the other effect lets you search, which makes it pretty decent of a card. And since I was imagining banishing monsters, 1 Levier, the Sea Dragon. And then since this deck has so many freaking level 1s, it wouldn't be crazy not to run the 1 Ghostrick Dullahan. And then for the links, we have 1 Borlo Dragon, 1 the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Cherubini Iban Angel of the Burning Abyss, which turned out to be completely useless in this build. Mainly to my own faults. 1 Link Kuribo, because again you're running a whole lot of level 1s. 1 Salamangreat Alamirage, and then 1 Relinquished Anima, which makes semi-sense because, again, level 1s. For the side deck, it's pretty standard. We've got the 2 Nibiru's, the 1 Dino Wrestler Prankertops, triple Ash Blossom of Joyous Spring, which can actually be placed into the main deck if you can figure out how. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, because back row hate against a back row heavy deck would be nice. 2 Cosmic Cyclones, because, well, you don't really want to discard your Ghostricks too terribly often. Triple Infinite Impermanence, if I had a way to put it in the main deck, I would. I would probably have swapped it over with Quaking Mirror Force, but I figured that I'd be using Quaking Mirror Force more often. Turns out I was wrong. 2 Evenly Matched. This deck is relatively slow as a standalone, Maybe with some outside support, it goes up to be a little bit faster. And then against other back row heavy decks, 1 red reboot. Now that we went over the deck profile, let's go over the pros and cons. Starting with the pros. The deck is a fairly fun deck with a very slow startup, which goes into the many cons that the deck now has in the current format. While I'll admit that the archetype is fun to play, one of the many issues with the deck is that it's very reliant on what the starting hand is to determine its place. There's nothing in the deck that can ensure a strong turn 1 board, such as a 1-card combo. They are still very much a go first type of deck, especially in this format. In order for this deck to function, you'll need either one of their many choices of field spells, or like I showed earlier, the Mystic Mine, to protect your monsters from attacks. Plus, you need a decent back row presence, which with Harpy's Feather Duster now back to 1 and Lightning Storm being a side deck option, causes this deck a few issues alone. In a different variant than the one I'm using now, I can see a lot of potential with this deck, and a chance for some strong disruptive plays. Would I bring this to a local event? Actually, yeah. Especially after a little bit more testing and seeing what else the deck can interact with. There might be a few workarounds that can make this deck still relevant that I didn't see during the stream. Otherwise, this deck is going to struggle if seeing competitive play. But I think that it would be worth it with all the hardships that follow. That's all for today, my students. Don't forget to like the video if you found this at all informative, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. Until the next video, bye!